4:42.
4:42. Thank you. Thank you.
Point of
You're
order.
Pacific distant.
In this time zone, anyway.
Whatever. Yeah, this time's not 4:44. And we have a quorum, but we are missing two. Um, is there a motion to approve the agenda for July 9th? Anyone?
So I can move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor of approving the agenda as distributed? Yay, Cindy. All in favor, it's unanimous. Item 3, public input. At this time, the public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To ensure that each individual's presentation is heard, the commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. Would the public like to enter any? Can't. You have 3 minutes.
We have a visual timer, or give me 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds warning before my time's up if you don't have a visual. Kent Sawatsky, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I went ahead and rented a booth down here at Annie Mary Days, and I want to see how many people can get me uh, things where we can get people to fill out public opinion polls. I was talking to Emily. Uh, in marketing, first thing you need to know is you need to get a hold of your people and see what they want. And then what you find out what they want, and then you satisfy their needs. First way of doing that is to talk to the people, or in this opinion, actually get it in writing. So I don't know. I was speaking with your chair a little while ago about you might have something on a thumb drive that could be brought to me, and I'll print it out and give it to people. If you don't, maybe you want to have somebody make up something if you like. I'm happy to pay for the printing, and we'll go ahead and we'll suggest to be by the mayor that we have a box they checked as to whether they're a resident or whether they're actually a visitor. And of course, we would treat those two differently as far as their needs. So I'm attempting to find out what it is. I'm launching a campaign. We'll be working with a few people like Supervisor Madrone, other people who are financially funded, and we just want at this time to go ahead and make Blue Lake okay again. We're not going to go for great. We're not going to go for fantastic. Just okay. One of the projects I'm looking at is actually putting a Blue Lake in. Steve Madrone and I have been talking about using a portion of the field of my property down there, and putting it would be a Poho Pond restaurant for the fish, and then also for when we have fires around here, they could come and dip in those areas, set up, and they will pretty well pay for that. So we're looking towards some of those projects. Also, then we will be carrying off of that other needs that we can do because of those of us who have connections or are funded, such as right now Eureka is putting in a rather large RV park, and that is Mr. Schneider's putting that in, my understanding. And so they know how to do it. People like that, or other people like that, are the people that we work with who actually get things done. And so those are the kind of things, and we want to find out what the people want, and then kind of craft something that will enable us. Anything in economics, what we think, all these ideas. But I really don't have a poll that I can go to and say, this is what the people want, and 72% of them like this. So anyway, very short time to craft some. That's why I'm hoping, I think Emily has some from Parks and Rec she might be getting me. I can craft my own ones, but I'd rather just have yours, and then it won't be perceived that I'm doing a push-pull-pull with a certain agenda. So look forward to hopefully working with people on this, and it's a long-term thing. It takes 10 years or something like that frequently to bring projects to fruition. But if we start now, we might have a chance of actually making Blue Lake okay again. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
You may need to collect demographic and income information just to make sure that you're representing what sections of the population you're representing, just to make sure that you're getting good data.
That's what I'm attempting to do.
Yeah, that may help give it.
It may take more than one collection point. This is just one
Yeah.
point. You may have a meeting and things to collect. I'm strongly suggesting you folks also take your collection points, and so we all can grab data. I think that's how you get it done.
Thank you.
There was a poll done within the last few years. I think there was people at the post office and at the park.
That was probably for the grant support. the community input for grant support on the town square grant.
Maybe that was just town square.
I think it was the time that it was the town square and getting people's ideas and opinions, I think. I could be wrong.
That sounds like a good idea.
Julie.
I'll let no the driver chair. Justin can hear us. An OP. Aw.
Yes, Julie Christie. Nice to see you all again. I would like to just make some concerned comments. I know I'm that lady, but I run a lot of stuff, and when I see that we're kind of lacking compared to other municipalities and everything else, and when I say lacking, we don't have minutes from June, May, April, our minutes on our page. There's nothing for 23, 24. You go even further, it's agendas. If you dig through what packets are available, we finally have them. So I'm not sure. This is the thing with our, I mean, we used to be able to keep up on some of this stuff, and now we have more help and we're having less. So if there's anything presented today that wasn't in this packet for the public and you guys to review ahead of time, there should be no action and decision, period. As far as economic growth, the river, obviously, we've all seen the influx of people. My children are enjoying it and loving kayaking down right now, but then I have to go back up to the hatchery to grab kayaks for them. And it's what it is, homies. There's going to be an accident. I mean, we need to figure out how we're going to figure that out a little bit. I know it's not our liability, but what we could do maybe is get some letters of concern into Mike Wilson. The property owners have already been back windowed a few times, and I think they're going to fence it all off, and I think that's the best thing to do. But until then, I love Marty posted that she looked for garbage and stuff like that, but in the meantime, we're expecting economic growth and development by monopolizing having that facility there, that people are going to actually come through town and buy stuff from us. But I was thinking about it, like, dude, what do people actually have to buy from the time they enter our tax revenue area out? We really don't have much that these river people can stop by and get. Darcy, you're probably number one on the way, really. There's not, and there's also the brewery, obviously. But I mean, we have all these seasonal things, and we're thinking about economic growth, and we have seasonal things. But the more that we can grab these people, if we're going to have them, we might as well get something that would be profitable for the city, because our grants are going to go bye-bye soon, and stuff that's going to help us. This county's going broke. The state's having a lot of issues issuing grants. So I think a great thing that we could focus on is economic development is town fundraising, ways that we can work on generating our
30
own
seconds.
funds that don't rely on a business per se, like the Medieval Festival, for example. They did very well. And we're supposed to rebuttal after everybody's done talking. And then if you guys have questions or thoughts, wait till everybody's done talking.
That's really respectful of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comments? Okay, we'll move on to item 4, approve the minutes from the previous action budget meetings. We have minutes for January, February, March, and I think that's it for now, which should bring us up to for the year, or we do for meetings from April.
I thought I had the April in here. Try it. Maybe I don't.
Let's see.
And that's one thing I understand frustration, and I need to say that I'm more than willing to have someone else pay for me. I was anyway. You guys over there? It's
January,
a lot of
February.
time and expensive.
Break it up as a suggestion. That's very important meeting.
I know.
Break it up. You give us minutes for the first 20, we give us minutes for the second 20 minutes, and maybe that would take over a little, timestamp the videos and just go back through them.
I do the video. I look at the videos when I do the minutes, and so it takes time. And then what's nice is that people are giving a lot of public comment, and that does take a lot more to integrate that in there, because I don't want to miss anything or misrepresent anything. So, concern well taken.
The clerk's not responsible for any of getting that stuff published for you guys?
No.
for your packets, if you're responsible for that.
I have,
The city staff distributes the packets.
yeah, and I do the minutes and,
Okay, you present.
yeah.
Thank you for clear.
yeah. It's me.
It's a significant task to undertake.
Secretary for me, for appreciate it.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes from January, February, and March as included in the packet?
Alright, I can make a motion to approve them.
Is there a second? I guess you prepared them. I will second. All in favor of approving the minutes from January, February, March? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Darcy?
Yep.
Okay, so we have minutes from January, February, and March. Moving on to item 5, retail cannabis ordinance discussion and action items.
So this is something that the city council has been discussing. This was brought up a few months ago about revisiting our cannabis ordinance to see about allowing a limited number of retail opportunities within the city. Through various discussions, the council recommended moving this to the EDC to ask the EDC to further investigate options or ideas regarding retail cannabis. I think from the discussions that the council's had, the thoughts are this would be a very limited number of permits that could be available. The city is not actively recruiting for cannabis businesses, but in the eventuality that someone wanted to pursue an opportunity, I think the idea is that the city wouldn't preclude that through our ordinance. So it's just kind of lifting a restriction to allow economics to, make a better, more informed investment decision if that is reasonable. And Ryan Plotz, our city attorney, provided a sample ordinance that he felt was a good starting point for the city. And if the EDC is um, interested in that, I can forward that on to you. It's actually from the city of Weed. Uh, and but it does seem like it's something that the city could look at as a starting point. It's very limited, um, but we would be asking the EDC to kind of do some of the background investigation, maybe talk to some of the other municipalities to see like what they would do different, maybe talk to some retail cannabis businesses to see what are some issues maybe that they're having through other ordinances, or if there's things that are too restrictive or things that cities would want to do differently, and get some feedback, and then we could kind of bring that back through various discussions and then make a presentation to the city council for further thought process.
Would there be retail sales tax revenue generated if there were a dispensary?
Yes, so retail sales tax would be applied. And just for a little bit of history, when we first wrote the cannabis ordinance, it was just when legalization was starting to happen, and there was concern more about large scale commercial cultivation coming into the community. And I had specific concerns myself about the city losing developable properties to large scale commercial cultivation, that I felt in the long term with industry, knowing that the industry was going to equalize and that there was going to be, a lot of loss, and thinking about the city losing capacity to utilize properties in a way that would have a longer term sustainability. I think the thought process behind the council's decision to not allow retail and commercial cannabis was just more along that line of maintaining our properties for smaller development, recreation development, and not losing potentially large large tracts of land to maybe larger greenhouses or warehousing type of development. But there was discussion at that time that in the future the city could revisit the ordinance and look at opportunities for smaller retail type of businesses, which I think, is something that could be supported in the community. Like I said, we're not actively recruiting anyone. We don't have anyone actively recruiting Blue Lake, but with the eventuality of someone being interested, um, having
There
that
seems
opportunity available.
seems to be a lot of these retail places that pop up and they're still there. There's a gazillion of them in Arcata and a gazillion in Eureka. So, and it's legal. So probably with the new retail spaces maybe coming available across the way, it's a good time to think about how many, if we want, we would allow. What's sort of administrative burden would this place on city staff?
So that's something that we would ask EDC also to look into. There's various levels of enforcement and oversight depending on the type of operations that you have. At the beginning, there was a lot of investment from the cities in the track and trace programs, and it was a huge cost burden, and that was another consideration for the city of Blue Lake is just not having the resources to make that investment for something that we really didn't feel was going to be much of an economic gain for the city. I think there are lesser regulations and oversight regulations associated with retail than there is for cultivation and manufacturing and transport. So that could be something that we could reach out to cities and see, has this placed a burden on staff? What is that burden? Does it make sense? Would the city, that would be something we'd also consider, does the city even have the capacity to take this on if there was that level? Does the cost benefit really, pencil out?
Are there certain sites where it would just be prohibitive to do so? Like,
I
say
think there's
across the street
already
from the school?
regulations in place under the state regulations about locations, proximity to playgrounds, schools, different public facilities.
So this would
Bus
basically be
stops.
a place where you go to buy some gummies or some sleepers or probably not, I
Tincture,
don't
you
know,
could see, I mean, I could think
tinctures.
someone,
Yeah,
had like, CBD balms and, different things. Like
right.
I don't think the idea is really, and Elizabeth, you could probably weigh in too, just on kind of what the council's discussion has been, but more just a smaller scale retail,
Yeah.
like a Blue Heron, but that maybe also
Right.
has some of those other products
But a
available as
fixed
well.
location rather than say a food truck or food trailer distributing
Yeah,
cannabis.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that I've never heard of that, but maybe
Truck
we should.
next to it.
That's
So
right.
when they get the munchies.
Follow the Longwood ice cream truck. Are you asking us to create a commission or I mean
An
a
ad hoc,
group
maybe.
to go ask questions? So that would mean someone would need to ask, like for instance, someone at the city of Arcata who does the books,
Mhm.
and then maybe go
Right.
to some store and ask like, what would you do different, or how is this working for you? Just
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think that the council is just looking for a bit more feedback, getting a little bit more information. Um, staff can help as well, but we're just a little bit maxed out on projects right now and resources. So, the commissions are always great places for, those discussions to take place and research to happen. And then we could kind of synthesize that and bring that back, or the commission could come and make a presentation to the council on what they found. And then the council would ultimately take it further.
Go check stuff out. So we need
Is
two
it
or
some
three for
dispenser?
now.
Two.
Two. So
Yeah.
Cindy, unless you would,
Are you bringing lunch?
we'll go out to lunch. We'll do research. Pick a list. But then it would need to be maybe a phone call to the city, right? And then a walk into a store. I have some contacts through work that I can lean on if we had like maybe a survey to push out a few questions.
Okay.
I mean,
That's
so we're
fine,
asking
do that
everybody
idea.
so we're kind of standardizing the feedback a little bit so that we're like
Right,
making
and have a letterhead, so we're not just
Ooh.
seeming random.
letterhead.
Do you want to come up with some questions? Cause you're smart, and then I can do
Yeah,
some footwork.
should we look at a draft ordinance first before we?
No.
You
This
want us
is
to do this first?
so what I can do is I can provide to you the copy of the ordinance from the city of Weed.
Okay.
And then, but really, it's more, I think the council was more interested in knowing how cities are being affected by retail cannabis. Is it a good thing? What are the negatives? What are the positives? What would they do different? What are the impacts to staff, resources? What are they seeing as far as revenue generation? The whole part, there's different taxation and regulations associated. Would they do something different in that respect? Um, Obviously, there's a lot of turmoil in the industry, but so
Still bleeding out.
it is, and there's still, I think there's a lot of opportunities. If people were to look to do something different than what had been done, maybe that there's definitely a learning curve that's happened. So, and like I said, I don't think this isn't a major economic focus for the city, but it's just lessening a barrier for economic development. And I think that's what we've been trying to focus a little more on, especially when we wrote the opportunity zone, is to not overregulate everything so that we're being preclusive to, new economic ventures. And I think with our cannabis ordinance precluding any type of retail, um, the idea would be to lift that barrier, but also put in some parameters so that the community feels that it's reflective of our size and scope and community needs and issues and concerns as well.
So this would be regulated differently than, say, another type of retail establishment selling alcohol or sodas or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be something we would ask the EDC to look at, like how are these facilities being regulated so that I mean, a lot of these are just retail shops also, it's like
Product and
you
inventory.
go in and you purchase and you leave. And
They're
so it's and there's different levels of retail. They've talked about, the cafe style business, and so that would come with its whole, a whole host of, I think, regulatory issues. But there's already regulations in place. So if you were talking about smoking or vaping or whatever, those are already regulated. You can't do those in public facilities, public spaces. So I don't know. I think initially, years ago, there was a real frontal reaction to all of this, and kind of, people didn't know how this was going to work out, what the safety issues were going to be. Um, you know, I think we're seeing things have
they've had
equalized
times
and
to figure that out.
relaxed a little bit. So,
And I don't know, and this would be good to ask those communities if it created any impact with crime,
mhm,
or was
yeah,
there an increase in what the police and sheriff had to deal with?
sure.
And probably initially maybe, but I don't know.
And that would be good on the questionnaire.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then so we're not talking about actually growing and harvesting.
No,
No.
no,
Good.
only retail.
Retail
Yeah.
I think we all
distribution.
understand that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No, just retail, like I said, prepackaged. Um,
Well, there's some good stuff. I
mhm,
mean, I've used it for aches and pains,
mhm.
but I didn't inhale.
I was waiting for that.
And choke on it.
Would the public like to weigh in on this retail cannabis ordinance, Andy?
Uh, it's possible you'll be able to do some research at January Day. I know since the ordinance was passed, there have been single day food sellers selling cannabis products.
You mean a questionnaire out on Annie Mary Day?
No, just you
You're
doing
right.
your own,
Yeah.
you doing your own research, seeing what types of products are included in that category, and what those vendors look like. They're Vibe and whether you feel that that is an appropriate match for Blue Lake.
So you're saying there might be a vendor here selling some salves and stuff like that? Yeah, that's possible.
As there have,
Yeah.
have already been, last couple of years.
Uh-huh.
So we already allow it?
I think it's probably just kind of happened, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm not sure that.
It's legal,
Right.
Yes, it is.
so
But I think the city has a ban on it.
Has the federal prohibition completely lapsed, though? Is it a matter
yet,
of getting it on
no.
the register and like,
Not yet.
They're still making their way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are we on public comment?
Yeah, how about it?
So Mandy finally gave us a clue. It's the weed cannabis ordinance. You can find it online. Thank you. I don't know why we're looking at weed though. Eureka commonly talks about their cannabis ordinances in their retail and business. I've listened to their meetings as much as everybody else is. We're all in the same sphere of influence. One big deficit they had, and Andrew pointed it out, and you guys did it because we did discuss this at a council meeting on May 28th. We weren't given this then either.
Yes, you were.
I looked in
Council
the
was.
minutes; it's not on the agenda. So,
Council has been given this ordinance twice.
well, the good for them.
I can
Unless
vouch
I
for
walked in
that.
here and didn't
Yeah.
get it,
Yeah.
or was it online? No. You can sit with me and look and
I
tell me
will.
where it's at on this phone on your webpage. That's fine. I just looked for it extensively. Um, the one thing that would be interesting for us is to actually talk back to Eureka. They had a big thing with the caps. They kind of had a free for all. We've already discussed this at the last meeting that we probably should have a cap on this situation because
just mention that.
yeah, I'm supporting that. And because Eureka has voiced that that was detrimental to them for retaining it hurt all their businesses not having a cap.
Right.
And so there are local business owners that are parts of our community. And I think it would be nice to get some input from them. Perhaps you guys do that ex parte way, or but they know our economy more than weeds ordinances know our economy. Just being honest, we should be focalizing what Arcata and Eureka have, not 3 hours, 5 hours south and east there. Okay.
I appreciate
Very
the
different economy than Blue Lake.
So the same people driving around the county.
the attorney had reviewed this ordinance and recommended it, and there may be legal reasons why the weed ordinance was selected over something crafted locally. But I am not an attorney, and
You don't want to be.
no,
Would you like me to address that?
please.
Yes. So when we contacted our attorney regarding the ordinance drafting, we asked about local ordinances that might be more reflective of the city of Blue Lake, based upon our size and our scope and our intention to have just a very limited number of possible retail operations. And so Ryan said that he looked at several ordinances, and the city of Weed had one that had more limitations regarding retail, that he thought would be of interest to Blue Lake and more reflective of our size and scope versus some of the larger cities. This ordinance has been presented to the city council on multiple occasions to review and provide comment back, and that's why the city council has kicked it down to the EDC, because it has been part of various public conversations during council meetings.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Kent.
Thank you. I have a long history of understanding this business. I had a really good friend. His name was Lonnie Bishop. Lonnie passed on a few years ago, but he broke ground on a whole bunch of the guerrilla grows through a whole area around here, including Willow Creek area. I have a history. I also had direct contact with the first legal dispensary in Humboldt County, and that's out in Myrtletown out there. And they're still there. I recommend you go out and ask them because they have the historical perspective, THCC, out in Myrtletown out there. I'm sure you can find them. And I used to stop in there and see how their business is going and see their concerns. Most of these places have security. They're required to have security. The problem you have is our limited market, and I just cannot see it being viable. Regarding most of the older businesses that first started are no longer in business. The ones in Arcata, they opened a branch in Eureka. They shut those down totally because they were not economically viable. One of the earliest ones here, and most strongest one, was Ray Gomez, Heart of the Humble, and their Eureka one is shut down now. Shut down with I saw within the last couple of weeks. So they're closing rather rapidly. There's Blue Lake does not have the volume here to support walk-in of any kind of business now. It just doesn't happen. You as far as a retail business, it's just you can sit there all day long. The volume's not there to support it until you develop another venue or something. We're not on the main track. I mean, Eureka, they're going continually. Most of their tourist business is a good share of what they have there. I would guess you'll find that out. Check and see with them. You're going to want to check some of the ones coming and going out right on the first ones you get to, coming into Eureka and going out of Eureka. I don't think there's any in such locations in Arcata. But you just see a majority of this business closing down. As it moves out of California and moves to other states, you're still going to have limited retail, but people will be able to buy the same product in their neighborhood anywhere in the United States in the near future. And so you missed the boat. Basically what happens. The growers understand that, the business people understand that. Pretty soon it'll be available at the CWS pharmacy for 50 cents on the dollar when anybody else can sell it. It'll be a consistent product. So that's the future of the business, and too bad, so sad, but that's what's happened. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
So
Is there any other public comment?
I could just say one thing. But pot isn't what it was when I was a kid even. And I would just say that if we're going to bring something like this into town, to have really good oversight, maybe even be checking with the distributor about what kind of like tinctures and like oils and things, because I see and hear a lot about kids like overdosing on weed now, and that didn't used to happen. And it just kind of could be a potential concern. I guess that would be all I would say. It's just
Can I ask you your name?
Winona.
Okay.
And then, yeah, as Kent mentioned, security on those types of buildings. You know, the gas station gets broken into all the time over there. If there was a building down here full of weed, I don't think it would not get broken into. But yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think the point of this was just changing the city ordinances so that we're not excluding cannabis businesses as a matter of course, ordinary business. I don't know if the SBDC could help you develop a business plan for a cannabis food truck. That may be outside their purview, but it would be an interesting conversation.
2 days a week rather than having in one location where they won't support it. So.
like an ice cream truck.
Both.
Cannabis ice cream.
Well, we are at the end of the Redwood Trail, so we will be having a lot of visitors.
So, and I think one of the questions I was thinking with the ordinance, would it preclude existing retailers from just adding a cannabis component to their retail? I mean,
I think that's something that you could, those are good things to consider. I think the idea is to have a very limited number of permits available. Our space is very limited anyways.
One or two.
Yeah. I don't think from the council discussion, the council's, like I said, they're not actively seeking or thinking that this is something they really want to focus on. They just want to remove a barrier in the event that there was an opportunity where a small business wanted to have something that specialized in retail cannabis or had it as a component of their retail sales structure. So it's not if no one ever came forward and wanted to do it, okay, no lots. In the event that someone did want to take on that because they felt that they had the economic wherewithal to to take on this type of business plan, more power to them. Like I said, it's more of a removal of a barrier with intentional breaks to ensure that the community has a level of protection that we think is reasonable, but nothing else.
I contacted Rio Del because when cannabis was legalized, they embraced it fully, and they have 2 dispensaries, and one of them does well, one of them doesn't do as well, and it's brought in a lot of money. They're twice the size of Blue Lake, and I think somewhere around $80,000 a year is what they brought in tax revenue.
It's considerable.
So maybe you could talk to them a little bit too
Oh, thank
and see
thank you.
the tax revenue would be nice, if it was low key and
Okay, so we have out of this item, there seems to be a motion to form an ad hoc committee. Myself and Darcy to do some research for the city council with city staff on this. So, so that's the motion. All in favor?
you need a second.
Wait, need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye. Okay, so we have an ad hoc committee regarding retail cannabis.
Yeah.
For Blue Lake.
Yeah, I think it's good to kind of come up with your standardized questionnaire. And I could help pull that together for you if you guys want to send me some ideas or whatever. I could kind of standardize a form. Um, yeah, and then I'll send you out the copies of the ordinance for the city of Weed, and you can kind of look at what they did with their retail parameters and the limitations that they placed on it. So.
Okay, so hopefully we'll have something put together for our next meeting or a following meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to item 6, the City of Blue Lake Community Vision Update discussion item.
Yes, so I actually don't have an update um, today for you, and I didn't prepare anything honestly to work on this. I'm hoping this can be kind of a fall winter project for all of us, where everyone's a little bit stretched thin right now to be able to take this on and give it the attention that I think is important and that it deserves. So we had it on for future items. I wanted to bring it back, but just ask for consideration of the commission that we kind of hold this over to a later date, so we have more time to kind of formulate a plan and a process.
Okay, so there's a motion to table this item for a later future agenda item. Is there a second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
That will be tabled for another time.
So that was Roxanne and
Do we get
Darcy.
public comment?
Yeah, you
Tabling?
better.
Would the public like to comment on tabling item 6? Kent?
Strongly support tabling it, and I strongly support an extensive, again, getting something out there and having people make their comments on what they'd like to see prior to you moving forward on what you have whatsoever. Everybody should have input on this. It's visioning, and I think that should go back to what was visioned before. Originally, there was quite a visioning process. If you're familiar with what happened then, a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think that's necessary again. If you want to have something that's worth any value, they come up to speak. And I don't care how far you put it off. It doesn't matter to me.
Thank you. Any other comments? Moving on, item 7, the Blue Lake branding and signage project.
Yeah. So I wanted to give you guys an update. This is a project we've been working on for a really long time. I think since the inception of the EDC.
Signage for us.
um,
Much water.
yes. So we have enlisted the help of Noah from Visual Concepts. You guys might know him. He is a local Field Brook kid who has created a really wonderful business for himself. He is a graphic artist, and he's also a big supporter of Blue Lake. He loves mountain biking. He played Little League in Blue Lake, and he and his family are out here regularly. So we enlisted the help of Noah to help us create kind of a branding and style imagery for the city. This is the start of a process to kind of look at signage, merchandise, opportunities to promote Blue Lake on different levels, whether it's mountain biking, hiking, horses, baseball, sunshine, art, culture, music, using kind of a standard imagery that people can start to associate with Blue Lake, and also allow us to kind of upscale our signage. We need to really change out the sign at the roundabout. We've been working closely with the Chamber of Commerce to look at options. The chamber sign is in need of some retrofitting, some upgrading, and so they've been very gracious about working with us to look at options to kind of create a new signage package for the entry to Blue Lake, which I think is really critical. So I wanted to share. Oh, it's not even on TV. Share what Noah has come up with and get some feedback. He's pretty far into this process, and I'm hoping that we can um, get oops, oops, get this to a point where we can give him some final feedback and get this to the council also for approval. We'd really like to start merchandising soon, especially for the bike park and different activities that we have going on in Blue Lake, um, and utilizing this branding style, I think is really exciting. So we started off kind of looking at the kind of the historical context and imagery of Blue Lake. Like, what is it when people think of Blue Lake? What do they think about? Obviously, sunshine, the river, being surrounded by the mountains, the bridge over the river. So Noah came up with this concept. We talked a lot about the logo image being able to be utilized through multiple disciplines. So if we're looking at branding, mountain biking, the imagery around the logo could be turned into like a bike crank, so it evokes biking. You could do a horseshoe around it if we're looking at promoting horse events in the community. Um, there's just a lot of ways to use that in different contexts, and they call them badges, and so that's something that we wanted to have that opportunity. The the font type is a little reflective of kind of our historical kind of vintage crane history. So he took some of these font types and adapted them to utilize in our name, using some of the kind of the fancier script, but also it's kind of a vintage modern context. And then using the established date, and then of course the California underneath. And let me see, I can get to trust. So this is kind of taking that imagery and being able to load it, like I said, using different branding, badge types, adding different options to be able to market and merchandise and use this. What he does with his branding is he takes it and creates imagery that can then be translated across different uses. So whether it's letterhead, business cards, t-shirts, hats. It can be formatted vertically, horizontally, portrait, landscape. It can be utilized black and white. It can be used with limited colors. So if you're looking at more merchandising, the more colors you use, the more expensive. So you could take this imagery and start backfilling colors to use based upon what your needs are. So you can kind of see how he's used some of the text in different ways. The one color, the text only full color, the extra wide logo, the wide logo, so that it can fit within different contexts. So part of what he does is he builds you a whole brand package so that you can start using that in different ways for different applications. And then he builds you all of your font types. So this is the different font types he uses, and then the different colors that he's using. So this is the proposed color palette that I think are really nice. These are becoming very popular right now. It's kind of a vintage throwback when you start looking at these sunset colors. But they really are nice and work really well with Blue Lake because you do have, you know, the green for the trees and the sunset colors and the brighter sun and the river and sky and the blues. And you can start to move these a little bit on the color spectrums and make adjustments. But this was the recommended color palette that he came up with.
Beer foam.
It is.
And this would be how you could start to utilize this. And these are just very quick um, applications, but as you start to, so you can kind of start to see how, you know, if you wanted to put it on a business card, you wanted to put it on a shirt, um, you wanted to put it on a hat, signage, you know, you can start building this into a lot of different applications.
For comment,
Mhm.
I like the font. I like the colors, but the logo looks like a totem pole. Looks like a totem. It looks like a face to me.
Face.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go back to right there, I see the bridge looks like teeth. The mountains look like eyes. It looks like a totem to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
And
I'm trying.
the river almost like a tongue.
Oh.
No, that was my first yeah. Uh, Does he have any other examples of logos? Like with a bike, with a horse,
No,
with a
that would
stroller.
be the next place that we go.
Uh-huh.
So this is what so this, like I said, this is what he is recommending, and then from this base, you could start to make other applications for
Yeah.
uses.
I really like the way he gives all the options for the layout,
Hmm.
but personally, I see like a face on a totem pole. You don't see it.
Not at
Nobody
all.
sees it.
It's not as bad in the black and white one.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, but that I didn't think that. The funny, I thought it looked like a beer cap.
I think it also looks like a totem face in a beer cap.
What?
The outside.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so the outside is a variable. Like I said,
Right.
he's showing different ways that you could present it. This one, you know, I think what he was looking at is kind of more of like sun rays, the start of the sun rays, without having it be too broad and pointed. But those are all things that can be adjustable. I thought it was really pretty. I thought, you know, he spent a lot of time really thinking about Blue Lake and what represents, but and also what you have to think about is this is a logo, and so it has to be a little bit more simplistic. This isn't like an art piece. This is something that, you know, you place. If you look at what our logos are right now, like a tree. Um, you know, so
Or this here.
yeah, so it's pretty simple. Um, so
Well,
yeah,
it almost has a Native American look to it too.
Yeah, it does.
It
Yeah.
does.
which isn't a bad thing. I
No.
mean,
No, not
No.
It's only
it's not Wilcut land, it's Wiot. Who you got it on record from?
good for Chad.
I'm happy to talk
Okay.
with you about that.
So yeah,
So this package will
not
be
okay
available
to-
for merch on sweatshirts, t-shirts,
Hmm.
beer mugs, keychains,
Everything, yeah.
doodads, earrings.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, this isn't the end all, but this is the start of a branding package. You know, so you could take aspects of this. If this is a typography, you could start making that application. I mean, obviously, like Parks and Rec, you know, we do a lot of our own stuff as well. So, but this would be starting something that people would start to affiliate with Blue Lake. So,
There's a lot I like about it.
so I can go back and talk to Noah a little bit and see if there's a way that
So
He
the
may-
mountains linking the mountain biking is and the spokes out there.
Yeah, so this was what he was thinking, it kind of starts to look like a crank
Yeah.
on a bike. And so as you start to apply that to mountain biking,
Crank or a beer cap.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I can go back and give him the feedback, and see if he can make any modifications, to lessen maybe he can move the mountains a little bit so it doesn't look like I can't see it. Like I'm trying really hard, Darcy, and I don't see a face. But I can let him know that that was something that you saw within it and see if he can maybe make a tweak to it a little bit. So,
Or make the face even more enhanced.
right. There you go.
Can it look like Bigfoot?
I would love that.
I like it. I like the colors, but
Yeah.
I am not versed in these.
I really like kind of the vintage ness about it, that it kind of
Richness, I like the colors. I love the font. I like that there's all these samples of how to lay it out with
Mhm.
certain items that it might be printed on. I just see a face and I don't see a bicycle. I don't see a bicycle crank. I see a beer cap. But that's just me. The river looks like a tongue, the bridge looks like teeth, and the mountains look like eyes. But maybe I smoked too much dope now.
I wonder if
I
it,
really smoke much dope.
no, I wonder if it's possible to, if it wasn't completely symmetrical the way it is.
Yeah, that's
Like if it were a little offset,
agree.
perhaps it wouldn't quite look like what she's saying.
Yeah, more meander in the river.
Mountains smaller and maybe bicycles over the bridge, or
Yeah, or maybe he might be able to like flatten the bridge a little. I'll give him some feedback, and he's pretty good about like making some modifications. Uh I'll just let him know what the feedback was
okay.
about that and see what he could come up with. But he's really good. He's great. He's really fast at what he does. And like I said, this is not so much an artistic piece. This is more of like an evocative image connecting back to
Well, that'd be sunrise rather than sunset if it's behind the mountains there. Or I guess it could be the sunset that way. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's just the color of
Redwood sunset.
yeah. I think that's the actual color palette that I
And
don't think
it's
he
too
added to it.
small really to get like a fish jumping in the river.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and we just didn't want to, he
And
didn't
it
want to
kind of clutters it
overcomplicate
up
it.
with
Yeah, there were so many things that he threw out, fishing, biking, hiking, mountains, drinking, horses,
he's got the big
but
ones. He's got
but he was, and we were throwing lots of stuff at him too, just things that we'd had in the past and things that had,
Your voice is really distracting.
Right.
If you'd like to talk, maybe you could go outside,
Thank you.
please.
In your comment.
Thank you.
Take it up. Great.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So is yours.
so yeah, so he was trying to kind of not over clutter. And he went through a lot of iterations to get to this point because at first, even the river, it almost looked like fire in one iteration, and so he smoothed that out. But I think he could definitely work with your comments.
He might want to take the river to the other side of the bridge. So it
Yeah.
looks like it's coming out of the mountains and make one mountain smaller so the river looks like it's coming from the mountains and not just from under the bridge. That would maybe be a simple way to distort the face.
Could he hide a Bigfoot face in there somewhere?
I think we could do that for certain applications.
Okay.
I think for sure.
Right.
And actually, he was talking about different ways, that applying this to different user groups. Like I said, it could be, somebody mountain biking over the hill or, but this is like your base
Yep.
that you start out with. And this would be something that, the city could use, on letterhead and things. But then you start using this to build, different, like I said, they call them badges. So they take your base logo and then they start to, you modify it based upon whatever interest group you're focusing on.
I could see this being applied to some of the museum stuff, having a bit of a museum.
Absolutely. And we talked about that having something that with the train or, different aspects of that. And he was really excited. And a lot of the that's where a lot of the talk had come from for the typography was just kind of harkening back to the train and the history and just having that just on the B itself. He worked on that for quite a while just to even get the little the kind of the fanciness at the bottom that was pulled from uh, another font. So he kind of built this for Blue Lake. So
That is a really neat font.
yeah, I think it's really pretty. It came out really well.
It feels old.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, a lot of this like color palette is really, really popular right now. It's kind of harkens back. It's kind of that 70s roller skating where it's the oranges and the blues and the browns. And it's really a popular color palette when you look at merchandise, especially with the recreation community. Um, even different truck brands like Toyota is going back and they are applying those decals and all those colors because it's such a kind of it's really centering on that recreation community. So it's a good opportunity for us to brand this and sell merchandise and things to raise funds for different park programs and things. So. But I will take this back to Noah, let him know. I'm sure he can do a few tweaks to kind of break up the symmetry. And then, yeah, if you guys had any other commentary or concerns, I can take that back to him as well. So he's pretty good at making mods and doing it
And
quickly.
he's done a
Yeah.
lot of good work in the
He does. Like every good brand logo you see out in the community, Noah's had his hands on. So.
Is there any public comment at this time? Kent?
I like the font. The rest of it, when we in marketing do something like this, we get 2 or 3 proposals or 10 or 20 of different styles and things to choose from, not just one, and try to adapt it. So of course the city and you folks can brand this the way you want to. For those of us who may be doing economic drivers and the thing, we'll do our own branding. We will find ways to brand our own things. We'll have more of the things that you have to have incorporated in there. Some more things like the fish, the river, the bicycles, and things like that. That's kind of what we would brand with rather than this particular design. And totally do see the face. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Anyone else?
I also really like the writing, and all the ways that it's separated, like as a letterhead alone. I think that looks really nice. I was gonna say what Darcy said. I was thinking the same thing. To have the stream going through the mountain, I think it would break it up, and maybe even like add another mountain so that it's not just the giant. I think that one that's big in the middle creates the eye illusion. So maybe just breaking up the mountains, which has already been said. I'm just jumping on the bandwagon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I think that concludes the comments on this topic.
Just in time. 'Cause my
Are you
battery's
ready to
already
move
dead.
on to the item 8 here, the City of Blue Lake project updates discussion item?
Yes. Let me shut this down.
There's quite a bit going on.
Oh, yes. There's a lot
Are
going
your
on.
busy days?
Yeah, so just to give you guys kind of an update on where we're at in all of our projects, the town square is obviously in full construction mode. They were pouring the last 2 squares today, and I believe the last pour will be the splash pad pour, so that's exciting. We just finalized the design of the splash pad. There will be 6 different fountain sprayers for the kids and adults and everyone, dogs alike, I guess. Um, It'll be operated by a foot sensor, so the kids will go and step on the sensor, and then the fountains um, will come alive. And we can set those so that they they're interchangeable, so they can all go at once, or they can spray in different formations. And then there's a number of different sprayers available. So, and they're like $35 a piece. They just screw in, so we can buy a few extra and change those out. So I think it's going to be really fun.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be. They've been doing a great job on the concrete. It looks really good. Concrete is not easy. Everything's cracking where it needs to crack right along all the expansion joints, so that's been good. Um, the trees are doing really well. They're down at the courtyard. We'll be bringing all the trees back to be reinstalled. We'll be installing some of the last things to be installed will be the lighting. So we have 3 solar lights. They're pedestrian scale lights, so they're kind of like the old-fashioned lights, and those will be installed, which will be good because there's not a lot of light down there. The ADA parking has all been installed, and that came out really well. Um, that it was a little bit complicated just because of the grade of the road being so high compared to everything else, but we were able to bring that down, and I think it matches up really well. So that came out really well. Um, Benches will all come back. The shade trellis structure, they put the footings in for us, and we'll be doing that as a community project. North Fork Lumber will be donating all the materials for the shade structure, the trellis. So we have that fully designed and engineered, and we'll just be working with the community to make that installation. Um, we're also working with the neighboring property owner. They've been doing a lot of work to clean up their property, which is greatly appreciated. We're looking at helping them facilitate a food truck right in their driveway. The town square was kind of designed to accommodate a food truck, and so the idea would be able to park a food truck there, and then be able to set out some bistro tables so that people can uh, come and relax at the town square, have some lunch. Maybe the kids are playing in the water, or they're just, enjoying the town square. So I think that'll be a nice addition. And we've got a couple of trucks now that are interested in long-term vending at those locations.
What's the timeline?
I think we're going to be pretty close end of July. Yeah, we have a large portion, well, about a third of the project site is lawn, and so that will need to be regraded and then hydroseeded. So that'll be something we're trying to figure out if we can kind of block off that portion, but still allow access to the splash pad and everything, because I know the kids are really going to want to be out there. And that'll be kind of a hard thing if it's just sitting there and they can't access it. But we also don't want to track a bunch of mud and stuff into it as the grass is growing. So we'll see what we can come up with. We'll
Temporary fencing.
yeah, I think we can come up with something because I want the kids to be. I mean, we've had such hot days, and that was such a big ask of the kids to have that feature. So we're trying to make whatever accommodation we can to get that open as quickly as possible.
So be a ribbon cutting once it's
Yeah, yeah. And we may talk to the council about maybe naming the town square after someone. There's been talk, we have some community members that, were very important to the community that have passed on that I think would it would be nice to recognize them, through that. I know Ron Brunson's name has been passed around as someone who gave a lot to the community, meant a lot to the community, and that might be a nice opportunity to recognize his contributions. There's other people in the community too that have done a lot, and we've named a lot of our facilities after community members that really made a special mark in the community. So the town square is another good opportunity for that too. The sports complex development concept. So that project that's kind of a private development project that is being looked at for the B&B property. Tavis and his family are in conversations with a sports, it's like a recreation club nonprofit that's interested in doing an indoor and outdoor training facility for sports. It would include indoor and outdoor batting cages, indoor and outdoor pickleball and tennis courts, an indoor turf infield, so kids and adults could practice baseball and softball, futsal. There would also be a small juice bar and kind of a study area. Part of what this group does, they're a very well established local nonprofit that's been very successful at coaching and incubating athletes, student athletes, and they put a lot of emphasis on education, getting kids ready to move on to college sports. So there's a lot of work that goes into mentoring, um, uh, providing resources for promoting themselves and outreach to colleges and different things, scholarships. So that's a really exciting project. I think that's something that's such a huge need in this region. We have so many young athletes that are really hampered with the lack of indoor training facilities. Uh, so this could be something that could be really beneficial, and it would be it would be a big draw for Blue Lake as well. And it'd be nice to transition that project site over to something less industrial. And that's something that Tavis and his family have been really excited about, and something that he's actually been talking about for a while. So it's
They
nice
lose
to
that business if they
no, no, I think the idea is, I think there's already some talk about moving the storage of the toilets to another location anyways. Tavis really wants to do something different, something more focused on recreation and youth. He had already been talking about possibly transitioning that his indoor space over to maybe like a trampoline park or just something that was less focused. He said he doesn't want to be the toilet guy forever. So, um, and it's also Tavis and his family, they're looking at purchasing the city corporation yard to do the other project, the Container Village development concept. So they're just really looking at diversifying their investment in Blue Lake on a different level, which is really exciting. And it would be more of a uh, development that meets more of our economic needs versus, the light industrial side of things.
So where would the B&Bs go?
I believe they're looking at some other properties that they have currently, but I don't know for sure. Um, Not in Blue Lake, I wouldn't think. But I think this is an opportunity. They could definitely do a phase project on this site. The site's big enough to be able to kind of start like a phase one where utilizing their indoor, they have a very large indoor facility already. It's almost 12,000 square feet. So it
Would
could get started fairly quickly. And I think it right now is only being used for storage.
would the nonprofit purchase the property outright, or is there
I
such a
think that I'm I think in their discussions, those ideas are being presented. I would think that this would be more of an opportunity to partner, and so maintaining the property and doing a longer term lease structure would be something that they would be talking about, but I don't know at this point. And then the Container Village development concept. So the Eisner family has come in and signed the exclusive negotiating agreement with the city, and they've put their deposit down, and they are working on some concepts for that. Um, it's kind of a fun project. I think have I reported on this to you guys before? Okay, great.
yes?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So using the shipping container concept where, you can stack them, you can, um, do all kinds of modifications. So we'll be waiting to kind of hear from them on what their ideas are. That still will, go through a process to go to council for consideration of sale. Um, so that is just kind of moving through process right now. Um, the bike park development, that is another project that is in full swing. If you've been by there lately, you'll notice that the jumps are really coming together. We're hoping, I think Dana, who's been doing most of the work on that, is coming back, I think next weekend, and hopes to get the third jump line kind of dialed in. We've been having some of the kids ride the line, give some feedback, making modifications as they find out like what the riders are interested in or what their capacities are. We did just start a major fundraising campaign for the bike park. RCMBA also started a major fundraising campaign on our behalf. So there's a lot of letters went out to different businesses and contractors and community members to seek donations, and so that's moving forward. And then we're working with RCMBA right now also on some other fundraising opportunities. RCMBA will be doing the beer booth this year at Annie and Mary Day, and that will be a fundraiser for the bike park. And then we're talking about some additional fundraisers as well to help with that. So that's a great partnership with that group, and they've been really, really supportive and um, just helping on various levels. They just helped us get a pretty large donation of dirt for the bike park. So that's been great. Materials are also needed. North Fork Lumber's committed to giving us materials for fencing, so that'll be nice to have. And so so that project is continuing to be developed, and we'll be starting to do some more community work days with that as well. Now that we're kind of at a space where we're not using as much heavy equipment, there'll be a lot of opportunities to work on landscaping features, the smaller jump lines that are more hand formed versus using equipment. So that'll be put out to the community in upcoming weeks and months. The Bottlewatt Community Project is in the design phase. That's wrapping up. Garrett McSorley is architect on that project. He's doing a great job just wrapping up everything for their submittal to the Planning Commission. So that is moving through the process as well as the environmental reviews that are taking place. Um, and then the north side of Taylor Way Master Plan and Parcel Subdivision. The northern side master plan is complete, and Tom Herman from SHN is finalizing the parcel subdivision proposal that will be taken to council for consideration of adoption. So that is all I have on those projects. I did forget to put Greenwood on here, just for your information. We'll be going to construction on the Greenwood improvements, um, also known as the truck route project, starting probably next week. REO Construction got that contract. This is a $1.5 million construction contract project that will start at the intersection of the Boulevard and Greenwood at the school and come down just past City Hall. We'll be installing expanded sidewalks on the western side of Greenwood so that the kids have a segregated path to be able to walk to school and ride their bikes so they're not in the road. So this side will have an expanded sidewalk for that. There'll be new sidewalks on the eastern side as well. They'll all be ADA compliant. We'll be installing raised crosswalks at various locations to be able to put in some traffic calming features, hopefully slow people down. There'll be radar signs, new landscaping. We've put in some new fire hydrants,
What's the
relocated a couple
timeline for
hydrants.
all this?
So we are sequencing this project to work with the school schedule.
So
So
before
we're going to start up at the top and move our way down so that when school goes back into session, we'll be further down or done. We'll probably be further down, but we won't be impacting the school pickup and drop off. So yeah, so that project is getting ready to go as well. I don't know if you guys have any questions or concerns.
That must have incorporated the Dan Burton walking tour
We
commons.
did, yeah. Oh, and I forgot too, we also, part of what Dan Burden helped us with too is we were able to get a mini roundabout funded for G Street by the post office. So we got that funded through HCOG. So that's, I think, $35,000 that's coming to Blue Lake for that project. So that will allow us to fully engineer and design a nice mini roundabout there as a traffic calming feature. That area gets a high volume of traffic and lots of concerns about the residents from the residents in that area about just how fast people go through there. It's a pretty wide open street. We also did install diagonal parking at the post office, um, which we've received really good feedback about, from people, the ease of parking, ease of getting out in and out. But that also helps to kind of make the road bed feel smaller as well. So just looking at different ways to calm traffic in those areas and, uh, you know, make some improvements that are have been identified on our safe routes to school audits and walkability audits, and then using Dan Burden as a reference and a reviewer on those concepts as well. So,
I have a question.
Mhm.
During the construction of Greenwood, where will people be rerouted?
So we won't have to reroute anyone on that project because we'll only be shutting down one lane
One
at a
side at a
time.
time? Okay.
Yeah. For the lateral projects, we had to go further across into both lanes at different times, and we had big trenches open. So we did have to shut the traffic down to be able to get into those trenches. And then the final two trenches up towards the school, that's the Eliason project. And so they're putting in their new water main connection. And I think they're just right now waiting to do their gas tap. So they're waiting, I believe, for PG&E to come out and have someone on site so they can tap into that line, and then that will be backfilled and covered up.
PG&E.
Exciting. Does the public have any comments on the Blue Lake project updates? Kent.
So maybe a little bit of clarity would be good for the public to understand the process with the splash pad. Questions would be, is that particular facility on a timer where it goes off and on, or is that available to be used 24/7, 365? The other concern is who's going to be the adult supervision at that particular facility? For those of us who run into, if you have 2 or 3 15 through 18-year-old children down there wishing to occupy that, and you have a bunch of 8-year-old, 9-year-old children who are being precluded from using that particular facility because that's what kids do. So it's of great concern who's actually going to be there and what kind of enforcement are we going to have. Unfortunately, I feel it's a ways away from the eye of the people that are right here. And so I don't know, are you going to have a Dulcet or somebody up there making sure that everybody uses that in the manner it's intended? Those things are also quite frequently susceptible to vandalism. It's just the kind of thing the people we have these days, and people do that things, especially to irritate the 17-year-olds because you chased them off for not interfering with the 8-year-olds. So those are concerns. I think the city should basically have a plan. Maybe they develop a plan to have some form of supervision there. Otherwise, I could see it being a very negative situation, and I hate to see that happen with something that could be very positive. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Are there any other public comments on the Blue Lake project updates?
So can I speak to that? I was just curious that, well, we have a playground, and I'm wondering if, do we need somebody to watch the playground as well? Or are the parents kind of, you know, in charge of their own children, or hopefully the older kids are taught to be polite. But we have a playground. I don't know how that's different to have a splash pad.
An equestrian facility.
Yeah,
There are other splash pads. I'm curious to be what other cities are doing with that.
they're a lot of fun. I went to one in Boise, Idaho. They're great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these splash pads are popping up all over the place, and it really is, the responsibility of the adults, to monitor their children. And I think it's a high profile location, and there are a lot of eyes on everyone, it seems, in this community. I don't think that will be any less visible. If we do have problems, obviously we'll address those like we would in any of our recreation spaces.
It's a village.
Thank you. Thank you. That's going to be a fun ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
Um, Justin, are you here for the chamber?
I could.
Or is someone else
No,
representing
it's
the
Justin.
chamber?
Switch hats.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me pull up my.
Get a mic.
Turn on your mic, Justin.
I guess I couldn't tell.
There you go. See how he uses it?
Right, right. Speak into
The advantage of having my own microphone. Give me a second. Let me find my. Oh boy, where is it? I was not prepared. There we
I
go.
imagine the chamber's in the thick of Annie and Mary preparations, and maybe there's a lot going on.
Honestly, the biggest thing is honestly the only thing we really talked about was Annie Mary Day at the chamber.
Oh, really?
We didn't talk about the sign. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. Um, I am waiting for Emily was supposed to send me the proposed art that you guys saw, the little icon thing, because we were shown a workup of what it could look like, and the idea was to make it larger. So I wanted to blow it up a little bit to make it what we thought, because we had a few ideas on changing the sign different. Um, so we have 48. Um,
Hmm.
we have 48 vendors. There were a couple of checks that weren't going so well. Um, we had the RCMBA doing the beer booth, which you already talked about. They have a bike valet, so people can ride their bike in and then they'll have their bike watched and they can, walk around and not have to worry about their bike being stolen. Um, Talking about t-shirts. Someone mentioned that they would like to see someone come in and do pottery, but no one's done that, or there's no application for it.
To
Um,
sell pottery?
for like a pottery class or selling pottery, either way. So
Really?
someone said that they would like to have seen that,
Huh.
but yeah, but that was not available. Folk Life is doing the music. Um, there was talk about setting up the backstage or backdrop for the stage, um, and then also putting something around it to keep the kids off the frame. Um, Talking about a canopy. And then talking about having Marvin and his wife be the Grand Marshal, and then also the possibility of finding a vehicle from the ride-in. Um, that was pretty much chamber.
Well,
It was a one-track mind for that. Once we get through that, then we can worry about other stuff. But that's one of the biggest chamber events that we could have of the year. So yeah, there's that.
thank you, Justin. Does the public have any comments on the chamber report? Seeing none, we will move on to the city manager and staff Parks and Rec event schedule update report.
Yeah, so I gave you a pretty big report already. Um, and Emily is in full chaos mode right now
Uh-oh.
with Annie and Mary Day, so we're not going to bug her because we don't want to
All the
push her over
facilities
the
have
edge.
to be, yeah.
So I can just give kind of a quick update on Parks and Recreation. Obviously, we're in full swing with summer camp. That's going really well. Um, we also reported on the bike park project. Emily is doing a lot of work with Annie and Mary Day, especially the car show. Typically, the car show is ran by the city, so Glenn and Emily are doing that. Saturday will be the start of the car show, and we will have food out here. I believe we have Cruise and Kitchen is also going to be out here on Saturday. That's when I believe they do kind of the town cruise in the cars and then come back and have a dinner. Um, I think the softball wood bat championship game might also be on Saturday. So the idea was to try and start kind of building up capacity for Annie and Mary Day to be a 2-day event again. I know there's a lot of talk about moving it to August next year, which I think is really great. Hopefully that happens because there's just so much this weekend and we're competing with so many other events. And August is a pretty light event for Humboldt County, and it just makes sense, I think, to move it back to where it used to be. What's that? Oh, the speeder train. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's so exciting. So in case you guys haven't heard, we are going to have the speeder train out here. So that's going to be super fun. So they set up portable tracks along the trail and they'll be doing rides. It'll just kind of go back and forth and stuff. But that's going to be a really nice addition to Annie Mary Day. It's
Where is it going to be set up?
it's going to be set up right here. Like, yeah.
Okay. Will it
Yeah.
go down towards the museum?
No, they only have 200 feet of rail, so it kind of goes back and forth. We talked about having it down there, but I think the problem was trying to get because we have to put the train cars have to like be put on a forklift, and I think there was something with the curbing that they didn't think they could get past, which they thought they had a little more space right here. So because we talked about it being like at the old depot and making it more of like a museum feature, but we just weren't able logistically. I think we were going to need to have more of like a lift to be able to swing them over, and we just didn't have that.
And is that on Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be fun. It's been a long time since we had a train in Blue Lake, so it'll be very exciting. And they've been great. They're going to be donating a portion of their proceeds back to the city for, I believe it's for Parks and Recreation. So yeah, so we're excited to have that partnership with the Timber Heritage Society. There will be a barn dance on the following Friday on the 19th, and we're really excited about that. That's part of Folk Life, the Botawat Festival. And in the past, the barn dance, the festival takes place in Blue Lake, but the barn dance would always be held like in Arcata. And we're like, we need to have it back in Blue Lake. So we did a lot of work this year on the crash hall. And so we put up a lot of sound dampeners. And so it used to just really echo. And we had one barn dance in there and it was fine, but the sound wasn't great. But with the new sound paneling that we have in, it's just completely transformed that to a really great music venue. So we're super excited to host the barn dance, and it is a family, all ages event. Should be a ton of fun. So those tickets are on sale, and yeah.
Do you know if they have someone serving food in the kitchen
You
at the
know,
barn
I
dance?
do not know, but that would be. I mean, do you want to serve or do you want to dance at the barn dance? No, no,
Both.
Dars.
You know me, I want to do it all. No, I
I'm,
don't want to serve. I'd rather dance.
I'll definitely ask Emily for you. Um, yeah, so
Those burrito boys would want it.
oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, for sure. Hey Wands.
So that's a busy schedule.
There's a lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
going on. July is definitely a busy month for Blue Lake.
Is there
And
still pizza that night too?
I don't believe so, unless Bill
It's their last night.
yeah,
Yeah, but Bill is taking it over though, right?
is, but I don't know if he's ready to take
He's-
it on
he
fully
said he's
yet.
got there'll be some ramp up of some
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a little bit of lag.
There's a
Because they'll be staffing, they'll be standardizing the menu,
Yeah.
or whatever he's going to do with the menu, and then
Is
just-
that going to be out of where he is right now, or is
He's
he?
planning
I
on
thought it
using the
was still
serving
gonna
booth.
be there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
right.
So we'll be working with environmental health to get that permitted. The way it worked with the pizza kids, they were very limited. So when we worked with environmental health, they recommended we do it as a special event permit because they weren't there regularly. And because it's a limited prep type of operation, it's basically the same type of permit you'd get for like making deli sandwiches and stuff. So so that's how we worked with Blake Pizza. But because Bill wants to do a higher level production, we'll have to work with environmental health to get the adequate permitting, and he
So
may
what
have
else
to use
is
our.
other than the pizza?
He wants to do wings, salads, pizza, possibly hot sandwiches, but he wants to do it like 5 days a week and not just two.
Because
So
there's other prep kitchen down there.
yeah.
that's,
And we also have Crash Hall now too. So in the past we didn't have. Crash has a full commercial kitchen now. So we're just going through the process now with environmental health to have that fully permitted as well. So you can use a kitchen and then have a secondary location be like your production side. So we have ample space for him to be able to work within now that'll be permitted. So yeah, so that's really exciting. He's really excited about taking that pizza business to the next level. They had a great following. They did a great job.
Yeah.
Um, and they made a little money on it. And so it was really exciting to see them. You know, they started out just as some kids wanting to make pizza. And then all of a sudden they were like, everyone wants to buy our pizza, but we want to go camping and have a life because they also work regular jobs too. So they were able to take that and transition that into a nice little sale for everyone and keep it going. So, yeah, another successful Blue Lake business incubated in the park. So I think that's pretty cool. Other than that, I don't have a lot to report for Parks and Rec. I believe we will be having kind of a get out and play day as well. Every year we try and do that to a higher level, but every year we get sucked into Annie and Mary Day. But I think Get Out Play Day is July 27th. So if nothing else, we'll be putting things out in the park for people if they want to come out and um, play volleyball, kickball, giant Jenga. We have a giant Connect Four set, and so we'll just have things available and maybe do like a special skating night or something. So, but
cool. Are
other than
there?
that,
Thank you.
yeah. And then pretty soon we'll be getting the rest of the roof on Crash Hall too. That's the
Oh,
other side. So,
busy, busy.
yeah, so we're just waiting. We thought that we only had a single layer roof on there. That's what we were told. And we got the lower decks all re-roofed. And then when they got to the upper deck, then they pulled off the trim and some of the gutters. They realized there was actually two. So we're going to do a tear off. And but we're getting a really good deal. It'll be nice to have a brand new roof, and then we can also work on pursuing a solar project next now that we'll have a new roof. So,
Oh, that's pretty
yeah.
cool
So,
for community
yeah. So it's a
resiliency.
really great upgrade to Crash Hall. It's an expensive upgrade that we were able to use grant funding for. So, those chances don't come along very often. So we've been able to really stretch those dollars and do a lot to get our facilities in good shape for the next, 15, 20 years, hopefully. I think
Thank
that's
you.
about it.
Are there any public comments about the Parks and Rec event schedule update? Okay. Moving on, I guess that brings us back to announcements. If there are any, there's Annie and Mary Day, which we have covered.
The museum we were hoping to be open on Saturday,
Uh-huh.
but we're all busy baking.
Oh,
So instead of we will have all our good stuff on Sunday, but it's like, who's gonna be in the museum if we're all busy? So
is the museum going to be open on Sunday? Okay.
yeah, no, we just had to get all of our. So we're gonna be open, I think, 1 to 4, probably a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But we start having with the car guys there and gals or whatever, they really like to have their donuts and coffee in early.
They are early risers.
Hmm. Yeah. So we're looking forward to it. We had some new exhibits, which has taken us some time.
Oh, nice. So will the museum be open regularly after that point?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. I think just on the weekends, if we could get enough people to come through, would justify um, having to sit there and
Dispensary.
well, maybe that's what we need to do. Or go back to the roots. And but also the other part is that we will be open when there are events in Blue Lake.
Okay.
So
And if
That's
we
good.
want to coordinate too, like any food trucks, we put out kind of a call for food trucks, just saying, "Hey, Blue Lake really needs food trucks," and the times where we don't have, Darcy operating or Bill's not operating and things. So we did have several that have gotten a hold of us. Cruising Kitchen is probably the main one. She's a new food truck and she does breakfast brunch, which I thought is like such a huge gap in Blue Lake.
Come on
There's
Mondays.
Yeah,
I know.
Monday for
That's what we were
sure.
telling her. So she's trying to kind of look at her schedule, see what makes the most sense. She was out here on Saturday, but honestly, this was the weirdest town. Like it was so dead out here because it was so hot. Like no
Everybody was
one,
at the river.
everyone was at the river or they were like in their house or something, but there was like no one around. So she did okay, but she didn't really do. I said, this is not reflective of a normal Saturday in Blue Lake. Like,
Or the ball games on Sunday.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so we're kind of working with her. What's the other one? There's an Asian fusion um, food truck, and then oh gosh, Big Island Kind wants to come out, and then we have a younger kid who has like a hot dog elote cart that we were like we can't compete with Darcy, but when but he does it from a cart, so that could be something that he could even be at the town square when a doghouse isn't open or whatever. And then
What
he
about
said
the ice cream?
we're so one of the things we actually were talking about, Emily and I were talking about opening an ice cream parlor in Prash. Because we were talking about
Jersey.
it, and I was like, we have all of the video games and places for kids to play, and we have a nice big brand new commercial freezer. Like, why not make it an ice cream parlor on certain days as well? So that's something we're going to be talking about after Annie Mary Day. And we might try some pop-up days where we do, an ice cream Sundays, and we talked about maybe talking with Thomas and at Foggy Bottom Boys and seeing if maybe we could feature their ice cream.
Jersey Sweets.
Yeah, but do something fun, kind of old school
Those
soda.
cookie sandwiches are really good.
Yeah, yeah. So that's something else that
They
we're
do
talking
ice
about.
cream cookie sandwiches, like Oreos and whatnot.
Yeah. And it's a good, we've got lots of kids working right now and that could use a few extra hours. So working, ice cream would
Well,
be
you're
fun.
training the labor force of the future.
We are little entrepreneurs. We thought about getting like a little ice cream cart too at some point. We'll see kind of what our finances look like, but that could be something too where, we could be selling ice cream from a cart in the park or the town square on certain days and stuff too.
Around the splash pad.
It's a big gap in the community.
It
There's so
is.
many things where there's like you can't get a drink, you can't get an ice cream, you can't get food, So they're all opportunities and we can't fill them all with through the park, but
Yes.
no, but we can kind of like sometimes we just kind of get the idea started and then like let's hand it off. If someone wanted to take it on as a business, so we could kind of make those inroads.
City does stuff. Yep. Yeah. It gets to be too much. It gets
Yeah.
handed off.
Right now we have a lot of cheap labor with all these younger kids who are out of school for the summer, so it's a good time to try a few little things here and there.
Are there any public comments about future agenda items? Any other comments? I think we're winding down to item 11. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
And we are adjourned.
And the time is